Once Abraham realizes how much he's been blessed, he builds an altar. In Genesis chapter 12, verse 7, the Lord appeared unto Abram, and there builded he an altar unto the Lord. And he called upon the name of the Lord. You see, God appeared to Abraham, or Abram at the time, he's still being called Abram, and he speaks to him and he gives him all that promise. And I'll tell you that God's appeared to me and you. He appeared to me on May the 6th, 1962, showing me that I was a sinner and I could be saved, and I put my trust in Jesus Christ. He made himself clear to Abram, and he made himself clear to me. And God has given promises to Abram. He said that he was going to do great things with him, and he was going to bless him. God's made big promises to me. God's made big promises to you. If you think back on it, God's been so good to you. And so Abram responds to those promises. And after God has spoken to him, and he says, I'm going to obey you, I'm going to worship you, and I'm going to do what you tell me to do. That ought to be our response. He worshiped the Lord. In Genesis chapter 12 and verse 8, he builded an altar unto the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. Worship's never about us. It's about him. Worship is for him, not for us. Worship is our response to him as God, as he speaks to us, as he blesses us, and as he promises us. Abraham built an altar in two different places. You see, worship was a regular part of Abram's life. I want you to know that worship cost. When you use the term worship in modern day terms, you kind of tend to think of that as the musical time when we're all singing and let's worship to God in song. But the real worship's in the sacrificial giving to set up a altar. Worship takes time. Worship takes money. Worship shows that God is important enough for me to invest time and money in it. How important is worship in your life? What evidences are there in your life that show the world how important God is to you and how important worshiping God is? What's your attitude? Do you show up at church and sit on a pew and say, bless me if you can? Or are you there to worship? Worship is so important that it doesn't mean you will not have problems and temptations. It's important, but life will have problems. And Abraham is about to experience problems in this Bible story.